So first, Phyllis Vogel has 50 plus years in the district. She's got 2 adult sons who attended Blue Hills and Miller. She has 13 years experience on the board, 22 years as a teacher, 10 years as a principal, and 3 years as an assistant superintendent. Phyllis is passionate about serving kids, serving CUSD, and public education. It's also my honor to introduce Sylvia Leung. She's lived in our district for over 15 years. She's a graduate of UC Berkeley. She has 20 years in education and higher ed. She's been a college recruiter in San Francisco, an admissions director at USC, at Carnegie Mellon, a freshman's admissions officer at UC Berkeley, an English teacher in China, a substitute teacher in CUSD, and she currently works as an admissions consultant. Sylvia's got 12 years volunteering in CUSD and FUHSD, Meyerholtz PTA, SRTS committee, walking school bus leader, CLIP after school director, grad chair, CLIP co-president, Lynbrook wrestling and football mom, Lynbrook Alethea parent advisor, PAC and DLAC committee, and she's got 2 kids, both in Lynbrook.
Thank you to Chappie and Craig and Jeff and Pearl and Soma and Lonnie, really for speaking on our behalf and on behalf of the community. You know, Lonnie said it best. One of the #1 questions that I get asked all the time is why do I want to be on the board again? People see the long hours, they see the hard decisions, and they really wonder who would sign up for this, especially when there's so many challenges going on. But really for me, in spending the last 12 years serving in CUSD as a PTA mom, as CLIP co-president, and as a substitute teacher, my heart is with CUSD. It's where I've invested so much time, and it's where I've raised my kids with an amazing community of families and teachers. And right now, as we face these challenges, this is really not the time to walk away. I want to see us through this. And Phyllis and I are glad to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit more about what's happening in the district today.
Lots has been said already about my experience. I've been around for a very long time and I've done a lot in the district. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I'm so proud of my sons who graduated from schools in our district, and they're here today. So Kevin and Chris, would you wave? And their wives are here. And I hope they got the answer to question number 5 correct, because they were there through all those years that I was with those schools. So I really want to serve another term on this board. There are so many challenges facing us, and I feel I have the skill to help to navigate us through those. And I'm passionate, have been for 50 years, passionate about the students and the families in Cupertino. So I would really like to serve in the next term.
So we want to start off by just telling you a little bit about what's going on in the district. And really the first thing to do is tell you a little bit about our strategic plan and focus. And that can really be summed up in our tagline, which is each child, every child, whole child. We're focused on providing relevant and rigorous instruction, making sure that every child has a foundation for success. But we also value personalized learning because we know that every child develops differently, and we want to meet them where they're at. And then we have to be intentional about all around wellness, because we know that we want our children to thrive, not just intellectually, but also emotionally, socially, and physically. And so as board members, we always have to go back to this foundation, that the decisions that we make, whether it's curriculum or budget or staffing, we have to go back eventually and ask what's best for the students, what's best for the kids.
So Sylvia brings the happy note. I'm bringing a bit of doom and gloom, but it gets happier as we go on. Our budget crisis. One of the challenges facing Cupertino Union School District is school funding. We are funded under a very complicated state formula that gives us $8,600 per year per student. That's $4,000 per year per student, less than the average across the state and the nation. And it's between $2,000 and $6,000 less than our neighboring districts. So if you do the math with our 15,000 students, you can see that that gets into the millions of dollars. In addition, we have a declining enrollment issue, which is we are losing approximately 500 students per year. 500 students is the equivalent of an elementary school. So again, when you do the math, it's significant. But in spite of the dire state of our budget, we have managed to have a balanced budget throughout the years. We're required by the state to show a balanced budget for this year and the 2 following years. And we've been able to do that, but it has not been easy. We've made a lot of cuts. We've cut district staff in all departments, administrative and staff. We've cut instructional support teachers, who are the people that help our teachers in the classrooms. And we've done a lot to make cuts, and we've tried to keep them away from the classroom, but we've reached the point where we can't do that anymore. The future cuts are going to come really close to our classrooms and affecting kids. So we have a Citizens Advisory Committee that we appointed last year, and they didn't actually start meeting until the summer. It's been a little bit challenging through COVID, but they've been meeting to try to help us to solve a $5 to $7 million problem in our district. That's not the whole extent of the problem, but it's a piece of it. And that Citizens Advisory Committee will be making a report to us at our October 22nd board meeting. So I encourage you to attend that board meeting.
So the other thing that's happening in the district right now, of course, is the pandemic and education during COVID-19. Like everyone else, we were surprised in March when the pandemic changed the entire world as we know it. And we had to go from thinking about just education to thinking about how to protect our students, how to protect our staff, how to protect our families. With no planning, we very quickly went into remote emergency teaching. But over the summer, our staff have worked hard to create curriculum and a robust learning plan that we've implemented and rolled out this fall. And our teachers have been focused on connecting and engaging and really making sure that our students are having that authentic learning. As a district also, we've had to not just focus on academics, but really provide care for the community. We went from providing about 1,700 meals a week to providing 17,000 meals a week. As shelter in place continued on, as our families started to experience job loss, as more difficulties came up. We've also worked to bridge the digital divide. We've had to provide over 3,800 hotspots and devices to families and students, and over 800 laptops and other Chromebooks to our teachers and our staff. And so all of these things are things that we're also taking care of while we're also really focused on maximizing learning. We need to maximize that education and maximize care. So those are some of the things that are happening in the district.
So what we've accomplished, Sylvia and I are pretty proud of our financial solvency, even though we are funded by a very complicated, as I mentioned, state formula, and the amount of money that we get every year from the state changes depending upon what the state priorities are. In spite of that, and we are at the bottom 2% of state funding in the state of California. And in spite of that, we have maintained very, very high student achievement. Our students are in the top throughout the state and even throughout the nation in student achievement, despite the cuts that we've made to the budget. As I also mentioned, we are required to have a balanced budget for this year and the following 2, and we have managed to do that in spite of the doom and gloom. So we're pretty proud of our financial solvency, but we hope our community will help us to raise funds in the future.
For distance learning, we're all looking at reopening and looking at what the plans are. I'm actually very proud of the fact that we were one of the very first districts in Santa Clara County to propose a 4-phase reopening plan that included safety guidelines, academic targets, pacing, and assessments. In fact, our model is being used by other districts as they were coming up with their plans. While we've committed to staying in distance learning until January 8th, which is the first semester, we've already moved into parts of phase 2. So we're bringing back students that have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Some of our special needs students, some of the students that fall into categories that just are more vulnerable. And then at the same time, we're planning for what happens next. And so our staff are working on a survey for our teachers as well as our parents so that we can continue to keep the community engaged and see where everyone's feeling, both the teachers, the staff, and our families. The last thing that we're really doing as we're continuing in this pandemic is we're staying in touch and in sync with what's happening with the county. There's 31 districts in Santa Clara County, and we meet regularly as board members. Phyllis and I, some of the other board members, will meet with the other school boards, and we just check in with each other. We share our collective wisdom. We find out what's going on, and we try to stay in sync so that as a region, we can make decisions, because we know that with something like a pandemic, it really is regional decisions that will help us to get to the point where we can move past this virus.
Under academic achievement, we're also proud of the changes that we've made in the past 3 years. We've updated curriculum in math, science, history, and reading. And the year prior to that, we adopted a new writing curriculum. As we visited classrooms, both prior to and before the pandemic, it's exciting to see the students positively engaged with all of these new materials and the new standards that we're teaching. I am a champion of the arts, and I'm super proud that even through all of the trials and tribulations that we've had with budget, we've been able to maintain music and art programs in our schools. And there aren't many school districts that can say that. So I think that's something that makes me very proud. The pandemic has brought challenges to our students, our staff, our parents, and we've been able to provide support for all of those groups through all the things that Sylvia mentioned earlier. Hotspots, devices, curriculum materials, so that we will get through this and the students will continue to receive a high quality education.
Right now, social emotional wellness is really at the top of mind for so many of us. And what we did at the beginning of school, at the start of the school year, we actually told our students and told our teachers, don't focus on academics in this first week. Spend the first week and a half actually, and just build relationships. Because we actually know that when our students have that emotional connection to their teachers, they increase their academic performance by about 13%. And so we wanted to make sure that that was a huge part of building and scaffolding into the foundation for the school year. It's not just about the pandemic though, really it's about what we've done institutionally to help with social and emotional learning. And last year, what we did was we revamped our math placement program. There had been some difficulties with just some students experiencing stigma because they were being placed in different tracks. And so what we did was we recreated that math placement system so that there was flexibility. Our students develop at different rates, and they need to have the ability to have that, to move from placement to placement, to be assessed at different times. And really what we've seen since then is that there has been a reduction of that stigma. There has been more openness to try new things and risk and not worry about where you're being placed.
Communication and transparency, so very important to our district and our parents and our community. 2 years ago, Dr. Baker and accompanied by board members went to every school in the district to explain to them what was going on at that time with our budget. And then last year, we board members visited again every school in the district as we rolled out Measure O, which unfortunately did not pass, but we did a pretty big parent education through our parent organizations at that time. Last winter, we had 5 listening sessions, one at each middle school, when we were looking at the declining enrollment. And we heard from parents, lots of parents all over the district, with suggestions and ways that we might manage the declining enrollment problem. This fall, we've instituted something called board office hours, where 2 board members open a Zoom meeting and anyone is invited to come. It's an open agenda. It's a Q&A session for community members to have an opportunity to interact with board members. This year, we're also doing a budget roadshow. 2 board members, Lori Cunningham, our board president, and I are part of the budget roadshow. We're visiting all 25 schools to, again, highlight the problems that we're having with our budget. But not only that, we're also highlighting the things that people can do to help with our budget. We always invite public comment at board meetings. Even though we don't respond to those public comments, we always appreciate hearing from our community, and staff follows up as necessary. And Sylvia and I are always available through email and phone calls. So would love to hear from our community.
So we want to tell you about what's at stake here. And the first thing is really just fiscal solvency and stability. One of the biggest jobs that a school board member has, at the Board of Education has, is making sure that the district is financially solvent. We have state laws that require that the districts show a 3-year balanced budget, and we've been able to produce that balanced budget, but it's come at a cost. Every year, we've had to cut more staff and more programs to the point where we're operating on a shoestring budget. And in fact, we haven't been able to give our teachers and staff a salary increase in the last 2 years. And we're surrounded by basic aid districts that can offer more resources for our employees. We know that our community is concerned about our school closures. And I think I can speak on behalf of both Phyllis and I that we both believe school closures is a last resort. We love our schools, but we love our students more. And we're at the point where the very things that make our district so great, the resources, the teachers, the programs, we're going to start losing them if we can't shift from this survival mode into a thriving mode, where we can start looking year after year at what we can start to build and what we can start to dream instead of what we have to cut. So those are the things that we're looking at as we're looking at the future of the district.
When we talk about a district of schools versus a school district, we are a district of 25 schools, and we served almost all of Cupertino, as well as portions of Los Altos, Sunnyvale, West San Jose, Saratoga, Santa Clara, and a tiny little piece of Palo Alto. I like to draw a distinction between a district of schools and a school district. A district of schools is where each school is its own silo with little concern for the other schools in the district. I think it's easy to become involved in our own schools and lose sight of the larger picture. In a school district, all schools come together and the educational program is equitable for all students. We want to be that school district where all students have equal opportunities for success. We know that each school is unique with its own culture and set of traditions, and we want that to thrive and grow, but we also want to be certain that all students have equal opportunities. Oh, the next is me too, sorry. Engaging all stakeholders. Strong schools build strong communities. Cupertino Union School District has historically been a destination district where people come from all around. They want to come to our district. We are advertised even as far away as foreign countries. And it's important that our Board of Education continue to reach out to all the stakeholders in our community. Our first priority and our most important stakeholders are our students. Beyond that, we need to engage parents, staff, people who live here but don't have students in our schools, local businesses, and community organizations. It truly takes a village, and we must build support with all of these groups because we're all in this together. Our students are our future, and we must be sure that they're all equipped with the skills and knowledge necessary to be productive citizens.
Phyllis and I are both incredibly honored to have received the endorsements of our teachers union and our school staff union. Our teachers, our secretaries, our instructional aides, our custodians, our maintenance and facilities, they are really at the front line of everything that we do as a district, and they're there because they care about kids. They understand what the issues are and they know who they want solving them. We're also thankful to be supported by so many of our current and former education trustees in our area, CUSD, FUHSD, our community college districts, and from parents across all 25 schools. And we're grateful that you've come to join us today because each of you is a stakeholder as well. And we hope we've given you a picture of what's going on in the district and an understanding of what's at stake. For the past 2 years on the board, has confirmed for me what I'd really only hoped when I joined the board 5 years ago, that our current board, in conjunction with our passionate community of families and dedicated staff, really are the best people for the job and the best people to deal with the ongoing crises we have. It's not going to be easy. There are no simple answers. There's no magic wand, but I believe we can get through this and we can do it together. We want to thank you guys for coming today and pass it back over to Dan.